Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So I thought it would be a fun video to talk about flipping CGC 9.8 books. And, just looking at some of the prices and some of the evidence in our last couple pricing videos, I think in theory you could flip CGC 9.8 books. And, I kind of in the title I said 1990s books, but actually I should have been more specific saying early 1990s books. Because in early 90s books, you're going to have enough CGC 9.8s out there and enough, new auctions popping up and enough volume to possibly pull it off if this is going to work. So before we get into kind of a typical scenario, a couple things to consider, I think. I think for this strategy to work, to flip books, buy them for, a low price and sell them for a higher price over a short period of time, you pretty much have to live in the United States. You're going to have access to all the auctions popping up, and you're going to have access to cheaper shipping too. If you're an international buyer, the shipping is just going to kill your margins. And plus you're not going to have access to all those auctions because the shippings are so expensive. So, you're just not going to be able to get enough deals basically for it to be worth it. And another thing to just say is, this could work in theory, but I'm not recommending this. Like, I don't recommend someone to do this. It's just kind of a fun video to think about it because I was thinking about it after I saw some of the prices and kind of the evidence, I guess. So, yeah, let's take a look at a typical scenario then. I brought two early 1990s books that I think are like the top candidates to attempt to do this. So, using New Mutants 98 as an example, there's 3,049 CGC 9.8s out there in the blue label. So, quite a lot out there, and that's what you want. You want, if there's more out there, you're more likely to find one for a deal, essentially. So, the pricing range on a New Mutants 98, we saw one in an auction go for $610 a couple weeks ago, and direct edition for $610 in the CGC 9.8. So, I doubt that's probably the rock bottom price, but if you can... I think with a New Mutants 98 grabbing one for $600, possibly all in for $600, shipped to your house in the United States for $600. And then looking to sell it basically over $750, either at $750 or, I'd probably recommend even over. Because you're targeting completely different buyers when, compared to yourself. Like if you're looking to buy a New Mutants 98 at $600, you're like a deal guy. Whereas when you're looking to sell a New Mutants 98 over $750 to someone, you're looking to sell that to someone who's never cared about comic book prices in their life, and that's just a really big Deapool fan and wants a CGC 9.8 like right now. And, you make sure your pictures look really good, you have high grade scans, and you make sure your shipping price is really low, and to make sure that's low, you probably just raise the price $10 or $20 more with super low shipping. And doing those things, I think you're more likely to sell to those type of buyers. So, with New Mutants 98, grabbing it at $600 and let's say selling it for $789.99 plus $5 shipping, there's a little bit of margin there to work with. Now, a couple things to consider, I think. Pretty much 10% of your sale is going to go to eBay in eBay fees if you're using eBay. So, one thing to say is, Instagram and Facebook selling and just selling direct off those platforms are, I think, your best bet when you're selling. But then usually on those platforms, you're running into more savvy buyers, I think. So they want a deal, basically. It's really hard to sort of sell for really, really high full price off of Instagram and Facebook. But still worth looking on those platforms for better deals. And worth even, trying to build a presence with some of your content and then trying to sell it on those platforms as well. As opposed to eBay, where eBay is basically 10% of your selling price. You want to make sure to include that in kind of your margin calculations, I guess. So for New Mutants 98, $600 is, if you paid for it, $600. About 10% of your selling will be about $60, let's say, $65. So your initial cost is like $665, not $600. And so, if you sell a New Mutants for, $789, say, you're making about a little over $100 on a New Mutants 98. So, yeah, there's not too much of a margin there. And, I'm using early 90s books as my main example because, like I said, there's a lot of 9.8s out there. And the more they're out there, the better, more likely you are to get a deal. But you could probably do this with, like, certainly Amazing Spider-Man 361 First Carnage. Another one I thought of, Uncanny X-Men 266 First Gambit. Even Amazing Spider-Man 300 and Amazing Spider-Man 252. Amazing Spider-Man 252, there's over 1,000 on the census in the 9.8. And Amazing Spider-Man 300, there's over 1,000 as well. And those are books you could probably still try to grab for really good deals and then sell them to, like I say, more newer buyers that aren't really worried too much about price. Yeah, so really quickly, we'll talk about Amazing Spider-Man 361. There's 3,302 CGC 9.8s on the census. So on our last pricing video, we had someone on our team CGC 9.8, grab a one in the newsstand, a really nice one, for $320. And I thought that was a screaming amazing deal, basically, $320. And I had saw one sell, basically it was like the day after, I believe. He bought this one for $320. One sell for $425, I think it was, maybe $429.99. So that's going to be kind of your margin for, First Carnage. Now you want to add 10%, so that's going to be about $35 on your initial cost. So say you bought a Carnage at $300, with fees and everything. When you sell it, that's going to be about initial cost is going to be about $335, let's call it. And yeah, I think in a newsstand you could probably sell that a newsstand Carnage for $449 at a full retail price, and maybe a direct version at $429.99. And the direct version you could look to get at $3, and the newsstand you could look to get at $320. And so you're probably making about $50-$60 in there. So in theory, that's how these things can work. And I got a couple points to make that you'd want to keep in mind, because kind of recommending or going through this flipping strategy. I think this could be a good addition to sort of a normal business of, if you're buying raw books or raw collections, like raw high grade collections, and then getting them CGC'd. This could be kind of a good addition to that type of business, where say you're doing that and you're doing okay. Well, yeah, maybe you could pick up 4 or 5 of these on a deal every month, and or books similar to these, and make $60 to $120 selling them on the way out each time too. If you can do that a couple times a month, that might be a decent addition to, like, if you had a buy raw CGC kind of business, like a normal business like that, or even if you had a local comic shop type of business where you're selling a lot of new books, this could be worth it to do on the side as well. Yeah, you really want to account for eBay fees and shipping. That's another thing to keep in mind. Yeah, again, about 10% is going to be your eBay fees if you're selling off eBay. Usually these websites where it's a personal website, they're backed up by some type of company that's going to charge at least 3 to 5%. Usually, I find those websites take. And yeah, so because of that, because the fees are a lot and they kind of destroy the margins quite a bit, it does help to get a good presence on social media, I would say, because then when you sell them, you could possibly sell them on Instagram and Facebook, or just, straight up direct, which would be the cheapest, basically, just a direct sort of a PayPal bill. If you can develop a reputation good enough, people will trust you to do that, and that would be really good too. So, yeah, you know what? I think the 2 top candidates for this is New Mutants 98 and Amazing Spider-Man 361. Certainly, again, because it would be hard to really do this on a massive scale to be making a lot of money. So I would just sort of, say again that it could be kind of an addition to a normal comic book business that you already have. Possibly, looking for screaming deals on these books and then selling them for full retail prices. Yeah, kind of keeping in mind some of the tips we talked about. And yeah, when you are selling for full retail price too, you really got to have a really good scanner. You can't just take shitty pictures and expect to get top price. Like, your thing will sit on eBay for years and years. Like, you'll just end up paying a lot of eBay fees. So yeah, for this, you definitely want to have a scanner, scan the books. get really good looking pictures, and yeah, obviously you're targeting completely different buyers when you know, you're trying to sell at sort of the higher end of a fair market value. So you got to keep that in mind. Kind of, you know, you'd attempt to be sort of the Rolls Royce of comic book stores if you were selling sort of at the higher end of fair market value. Okay, I think that's going to be about it for this video. And you know what, like, doing these scenarios, I think if you did it right on an Amazing Spider-Man 361, maybe you'd make 60 or 70 bucks. If you did it right on a New Mutants 98, maybe you'd make 120 bucks. So is it worth it? You know, probably not, because again, even though I do recommend early 90s books where there's a lot of them, there's probably still not a lot of them out there to do this like 10 or 20 times over every month. Because then it would be kind of worth it, you know. If you could do it 10 or 20 times over and you're making 100 bucks a pop, it would be worth it. But I doubt there's enough volume for that. But, you know, nonetheless, something to think about. And I think it, if anything, it just makes you more aware of the range of fair market value. And especially for issues where, you know, these two issues here, for lack of a better word, they attract a lot of noobs. So, you know, when there's a lot of noobs in the market, you're probably more likely to get a deal, and you're probably more likely to sell at like the higher end of fair market value prices. So yeah, I think that's really in the gist of it, of why I would focus on these two issues if you were going to do this flipping strategy. Because yeah, you are kind of taking advantage of a bit of a knowledge gap in the market, which, you know, I know some people out there just probably might not even feel good about that, like morally or something like that. But I think if you're providing a really nice book to someone and, you know, they don't have as much knowledge on the price, but you could just give it to them for maybe $50 or $100 more than a really good price, I don't think that's a very bad thing. Like, they're probably still going to be really happy. They're going to have almost no idea that they, you know, overpaid. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But, you know, this flipping CGC 9.8 books, still wouldn't really recommend it, to be honest. I just think if you're in it for that, you just might not even like the hobby enough. Because I know for me, like, I just love to buy the books, and then I have them, and I enjoy the pride of ownership, and I buy the books that I really love, so I have that big pride of ownership, and I don't want to sell them. Like, I'm gonna have a really hard time selling these because I like them. I like having them. So, yeah, it's definitely not for me. I'm like definitely a just buy and hold type. Buy, hold, and enjoy, I would say, is my strategy. But still kind of fun to think about flipping books, I think. And yeah, kind of just narrowing down a couple points. I think it could work with early 90s books. And yeah, you want to make sure you're living in the U.S. because, you know, you have that access and the cheap shipping. But yeah, just going through it, and it's, you know, you're still kind of making peanuts. So, you know, if you were thinking about the strategy, I probably wouldn't recommend it. You know, maybe if you lived in the States and you know, you had a bit of a mentality of a quick money mentality that you might wanted to embrace, maybe you could do that, and you could always be moving these back and forth, which would be kind of fun, getting new ones in maybe all the time. Okay, that'll be it for this video, and I'd invite everyone out there to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. And when you press subscribe, bell pops up, hit the bell, get all our latest notifications. Yeah, that'd be so appreciated. And yeah, love to have you on our comic book collecting team. But today, yeah, the fun video today. I thought definitely something I was thinking about, so I just thought I would get on camera and talk about, you know, some of the prices and, you know, my theory of flipping early 1990s CGC 9.8 comic books that I admit probably is not worth it, and I probably wouldn't recommend. All right, thank you very much for watching today. Yeah, I appreciate all the support out there and all the conversations I'm having on Instagram. But yeah, thanks so much everyone out there for all the support and, you know, liking my videos and watching my videos. Probably don't say it enough. Just kind of realize like I've been nonchalantly saying it, but I really appreciate all the support and for watching the video and, you know, taking the time to watch me just talk about comic books. Really means a lot. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.